Hello and welcome to the Into the 99 podcast where we got 99 cards because Commander is number one. I am your hostess with the mostest, Necrozek, joined by the poorest sport in all the land, Brian. Brian
Pretty
says
sh-
hello.
pretty sure I have the best sport because I'm always dying first.
There's a reason for that. And on this momentous occasion, we are joined by the newest member of the 99 Council, Ryan. How are you, buddy?
Great. How are you guys?
I'm
Excellent.
doing so much better since you're here.
Aw, you're too kind.
So,
Yes, Brian.
before we get into today's episode and the topic of the episode, we have some house cleaning we need to do. So, first and foremost, we want to thank you guys for listening to us or watching, however, you're taking this in. Just know we appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe and share this with all of your friends because we want to continue to grow and want to provide more cool things for you. Shout out to our sponsor, Etch Gaming. If you want to bling out your game outside of the game, that's the way to go. Etch Gaming at Etsy. And we also want to shout out our newest patron, Josh. They surprised us and, patroned us. And now we have to really be on our A game because that was super nice and we want to continue to do well for you guys. So if you ever want to support the show financially, you can go to our Patreon and do so. There's a lot of cool stuff and we're always trying to add more things for you guys. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Brian?
Also, we just recently launched our merch store. If you're in the Discord, you can find it under media links. Out of that, also it is in our bio links, so you can find it there.
We can't afford the horns because, as you guys can probably tell, Dan isn't with us this week. So all of the cool sound effects and everything that Dan would provide for us, he's not doing so. He is currently fighting a forest fire in Canada, and we hope for the best for him.
He's a
Trying to
moose.
save the moose.
Yeah, he's a moose rescuer.
Hey,
He
I
carries
love
one
some
per
moose.
shoulder. So Zach,
All right.
what's our topic today?
All right. So let me set the stage for you guys, okay? Let me paint a picture verbally for you. Imagine that you are an inhabitant of a plane that is wrought with magic. Every person can use magic. The beings are magical. Just magic everywhere. And then picture a species growing wildly out of population to the point that they're planning to take over the land driven world. And you happen to be the only person to remember or know what's going on because they are actively wiping the memory of each inhabitant on the surface of this world.
I'm intrigued on where you're taking us with this.
It's salamanders. It's salamanders. We're doing salamanders, guys. So if you don't know, each legendary creature in new legendary creature, I should say, in the Commander Legend set has lore to him. And the guy that we're talking about this week is Gor Muldrak, Amphinologist. And his story, he's actually a scientist from Chandelar, which is the plane. And it's really dark, but the salamanders of that plane have grown so wildly out of proportion that they're wanting to take over the surface world, and they've been doing this by wiping the memories of everyone but him. So he knows this war is about to happen, but no one believes that these creatures exist.
He's like that insane old guy that nobody will listen to.
Yeah, it's wild. I thought the story was really cool, and his card's really unique. So if you don't know, it's Gor Muldrak, Amphinologist, 1 green and blue for legendary creature human scout 3/2. You and permanents you control have protection from salamanders. At the beginning of your end step, each player who controls the fewest creatures create a 4/3 blue salamander warrior creature token. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. The kind of things we're wanting to do with this deck, we really want to take advantage of making salamanders, whether it be for us or whether it be for our opponents. And we want to be able to benefit from that more than anyone else, whether we are able to swarm the board with salamanders or we're able to curry favor with our opponents by like, hey, I'm going to cast my commander. You have less creatures than anyone. I'm going to do this so that you can get a salamander. Like, just remember that. So if you, it sounds silly, but it's cool. It's a good political tool, really. Like, Brian, how many times would you have survived if you would have had a blocker?
Oh, a lot actually.
And
That's kind of sad, isn't it?
it's at the beginning of your end step. Each player who controls the fewest. So if they're people are two people, you know can
I'm
get
actually
multiple creatures.
thinking about what you're saying. Like, it's kind of bonkers that if you can keep it on par and you can keep ahead of people, you just keep gifting out tools that for other people's demise under your own.
And it's you and permanents you control have protection from salamanders. So
Oh,
um,
interesting.
yes. So this deck is wanting to, like I said, we want to give people. So it's a bit of a political deck. We want to either take salamanders from people or turn their things into salamanders. So there's a theme of changing creature types, which there are a lot of really interesting cards we'll talk about. And there's a bit of a kind of elf ball strategy, but instead of elves, we're dealing with salamanders because that's what the creature type we're going to see most frequently on this board state. So any creature that creates other creatures that we can once again turn into salamanders. So that's the kind of overall strategy of this deck. And as we get through this more and towards the end of the episode, we can go back and harken on some of these things and how they line up.
I'm gonna say it now. They're bringing in new creature types. Just give me lords for worms. I just want worms.
But that's the thing. Salamanders have been a creature type before.
Oh, I guess I just never noticed them.
Yeah, because I think they've only been printed on 3 cards prior.
They must have been under rocks.
Actually, they've been under sea.
Oh, sea salamanders. Okay.
Yeah, it's whatever. All right,
Salamanders.
So as always, for every deck tech that we do, we have a link to Architect where you can see our lovely, deck and how I break it down into, or how each individual person will break it down into their fields. So the first thing I want to talk about is the the salamander spells, and this is what I was talking about making permanent salamanders. So if someone has something big, we can put Gor or any of our other creatures in front of it and make it a salamander. So the first card that we're going to talk about is Amoeboid Changeling. It's 1 in a blue for a shapeshifter 1/1. It has Changeling, so it has every creature type. So it's a salamander. You can tap, target creature gains all creature types until end of turn, or target creature loses all creature types until end of turn. 9 times out of 10, we are going to make whatever creature that we're targeting with this a salamander to block it normally, or have one of our creatures block it. But there's also the caveat of being able to remove all creature types.
Yeah, just being able to turn anything into a salamander and block it because your stuff has protection from it is great. I really enjoy that.
And you have protection from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that giant Kozilek. Guess what? It's a salamander now, and you can't even attack me.
It's nice too because, like I said, this is kind of a political deck. So if
that's
someone
amazing.
has
You don't even have to block then if you have protection.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Bring it, son.
It's a very powerful commander. I know it's silly and it's very niche, but it's actually very, very powerful. And it being a 3 CMC for a 3/2, that's super good. It's very good. So the next card to make all things salamanders is Arcane Adaptation. It's 2 in a blue for an enchantment. When it ETBs, you choose a creature type, probably salamander. Creatures you control are the chosen type in addition to their other types, and the same is true for creature spells you control that aren't on the battlefield. So yeah, we're just making salamanders.
So I just want to quickly, because this is what always intrigues me. So the average CMC is 3.04. So even it's still a low costing deck. And running 33 lands, we're getting down there, Zach. Gotta get that in for Dan.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I'd have to cut about 4 more cards out of the deck to increase that land count.
And so the next card that we're going to be going over is Artificial Evolution. And I love that it's just like this octopus crab. That's beyond.
Lobstrosity.
And do you know what? and it is from my favorite set again. It's from Legions. So 1 blue, and it's changed the text of target spell or permanent by replacing all instances of one creature type with another. The new creature type can't be legend or wall. That's a shame.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's very interesting too, because if you have, you don't have anything on board to make something, say a salamander, you can, as attackers are declared, but before damage is dealt, you can cast this, and suddenly that giant, I don't know, 30/30 Rograk is now a salamander that you can block.
I'm just like I would say like this would be great because I'm always getting targeted first.
Mm-hmm.
Is just
I don't
to
know
be
why
able to.
anybody would ever do that.
I know,
Yeah.
right? But yeah,
The
like just being able to go, your thing's a salamander now. You can't touch me. I've never feared salamanders before.
It's like I said, it's a very silly deck, but this is kind of like these synergies are actually really, really interesting, right? Like it uses a lot of like really weird and niche cards that fit very well, and they're super low CMC. Like the next card, Image Crafter, it's 1 blue for a wizard. It's a 1/1. You can tap it. You choose a creature type other than legend or wall. Once again, target creature's type becomes that type until end of turn. So this can be good for you. It can help you with turning something into a salamander so you can block, or turn into a salamander so our spells later that ramp creatures based on creature type becomes bigger and what have you. It's just really fun. Do you want to take the next card, Ryan?
Yes, I actually do. I love this card. Lawan Cephalid Empress. She's three colorless and a blue for a Cephalid Legend, a 2/3. And when she enters the battlefield, return all blue creatures your opponents control to their owner's hands, and your opponents can't play blue creature spells. This card seems like a house in this
Amazing.
deck.
It's really cool, right? So obviously when we cast, or as salamanders initially start getting handed out, there's a good chance that our board state's going to start to get pretty full, and we're not going to take advantage of being able to make salamanders for ourselves. So by playing this, obviously we wipe the board of
Is it
everyone
blue
else. The one side,
salamanders?
yeah, the salamanders
Yes.
are blue.
Haha. So you
S-
you get rid of them all by putting this into play.
mhm.
Amazing.
And then
So
they
it's
just
a
keep they start making more, so you're still playing the politic game, but you lessen the board state.
That's
exactly. So
fantastic. I
we
do
can
have
get
to
through a little bit
comment
easier.
that I love how it's an octopus or cephalopod,
Cephalid. Mhm.
and it still has shoulder plate.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. The cool thing too with this is your opponents can't play blue creature spells. So in some decks, this just does so much more work than getting rid of salamanders. Some decks it just shuts down their creature spell game plan, right?
I've
If
never
Um,
you
even
try to
thought
play
about
that
this card.
merfolk army,
Yeah,
yeah,
merfolks and
exactly.
salamanders are arch enemies.
Well, not on this board state, not today.
I've never seen this card before. Like this is actually fantastic.
I remember playing
It's
this card in limited.
so this is what I was talking about with. I mean, you know how excited I was when I was talking about like some of these creatures and like a lot of these spells being so weird and blah 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 blah. Is that it really gives way for a lot of these cards that probably didn't have a home to begin with, a home.
Yeah.
Like you can go through. This is a lot of these cards, and I've bought most of this deck already, are fairly cheap because like who really needed an image crafter? Who really needed an artificial evolution?
Yeah, this deck is only just slightly over $400.
And a lot of that's
American.
because yeah, and a lot of that's because I had these staples, and there were a lot of cards I wanted to play that I didn't have, that I have access to that didn't have homes.
Well,
Not
and
all these cards.
if you cut Finale of Devastation and Craterhoof Behemoth, this is now a $300 deck.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
So
literally 2 cards in its budget.
we'll get to those guys. But for now, let's continue talking about salamander spells. The next one's Mistform Mutant. It's 4 blue, probably one of the biggest spells in the deck. 1 in a blue. Choose a creature type other than legend or wall. Target creature's type becomes that type until end of turn. So it's a little bit more expensive for a creature, but we can guarantee we constantly get to choose a creature type, right?
This just keeps surprising me because it just takes me back to like the heyday of when I was playing standard. I love the set. Like such good cards in the set. And
Mm-hmm.
it's playing green blue. That 6 mana cost isn't hard to get.
No, not at all. Well, do you want to take the next card then, Brian? I think you'll like this one.
Oh, definitely.
This next one's sweet.
Oh, look, it is from the same set. So we have Peer Pressure, 3 blue sorcery, rare from Legions. Choose a creature type. If you control more creatures of the type, of that type than any other player, you gain control of all creatures of that type. Gross, Zach.
This is awesome.
Yes.
Oh, I gave you all those salamanders. I will take them back now, please.
And once again, I got to keep harping on this. You can make creatures a specific type. So someone plays their commander, someone plays, I don't know, a Blightsteel Colossus.
Or Brian's favorite, an Eldrazi.
And you say, Amiiboy Changeling. You take it, and now this is mine.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
That's really neat.
Talking about, yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say, I'll take the next one. It's standardize. It's 2 blue, instant. Choose a creature type other than legend or wall. Each creature type becomes that type until end of turn. Synergy with Peer Pressure.
Yep.
Oh,
I'll just take all of the creatures.
And these mana costs aren't high.
No.
Like this, again, the green blue combination of this is fantastic because you should easily be able to, if you're running the ramp package, you should easily be able to get any mana and card draw to be able to go through and get all the cards that you need.
Yeah, it's almost CEDH level from CMC, and that's why I felt okay going down to 33 lands as opposed to my normal 36. Brian, you want to take this next one? I think you'll like this one too.
I actually remember this one. So this one is Trickery Charm. 1 blue. Instant. Choose one. Target creature gains flying until end of turn, or target creature's type becomes the creature type of your choice until end of turn. Or look at the top 4 cards of your library, then put them back in any order. So easily, you can either manipulate the top stack, or you can be able to change a creature type for a single blue mana. Super simple.
It's really good. 1 blue to scry 4. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Next card is Unnatural Selection. 1 in a blue for an enchantment. You pay 1. Choose a creature type other than wall. Target creature's type becomes that type until end of turn. Just simple and sweet. And the final Salamanders spell is Xenograph. 4 in a blue. Enchantment. As Xenograph enters the battlefield, chooses creature type. Each creature you control is a chosen type in addition to its other types. So all these spells will basically make whatever creature type become the creature type until end of turn.
Oh, I like this one.
What's that?
The Xenographed. I really like that. Oh, yeah.
It's really cool. So there are, we obviously have 2 spells that really are going to affect us, which being Xenograph and Arcane Adaptation. And there are other spells I want to talk about in the deck, but we'll talk about why making our creatures a specific type is so important. So we'll go over here to our win cons. We're looking at first at Avenger Zendikar, which is typical, commander staple, 5 green, creature elemental, 5/5. When Avenger ETBs create a 0/1 plant creature token for each land we control, like Brian has said multiple times, we're playing green-blue. There's a good chance we're going to get a lot of plant tokens. And landfall, whenever land ETBs, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each plant creature you control. So there are a lot of cool synergies.
+1/+1 for each salamander you control?
That's what I'm saying. So there are a lot of synergies. Let's say, we have a pretty big board state, but we just can't quite get there for one reason or another. We can make everything up. Our salamanders can become plants in this situation, right?
Oh, you can change them all back to, before I play my land, I'm going to turn all my salamanders into plants. I will play my land. They all get +1/+1 counters, and then I'll turn them back to salamanders.
Or I'm going to ramp 2 or 3 times, give them all +4, +5 counters. Oh, wait, they go back to salamanders, and they're still huge.
So that's important to remember. One of the synergies and one of the themes of this deck is changing creature types, whether they're all one type or a different type. There are a bunch of different cards in this deck that are going to reward you for them being a specific creature type at a specific time.
I
So that's
do
one.
enjoy this. Just looks like it could be fun. Like, and I wouldn't even say like it's like a janky fun. Like, who even thought salamanders?
Right. I was super excited when, like, if you were in our Discord, you'd see where I had said, "Guys, I did it," and I sent a picture of Gor, Muldrak, and Boy Changing. Those were the only two cards I had, and then suddenly this deck like popped up an hour later.
Formed around it.
So the next card,
Can I take
do
that
you?
one?
Yeah, go for it.
Caller of the Hunt. It's 2 colorless and a green for a creature lord. I'm sure it's been errated to something. It's for
Yeah.
Macadian masks, and its power and toughness are star. And it's when you play it, choose a creature type, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures in play of that chosen type.
She gonna be big.
She's gonna be big.
If when you cast her, you don't have the most creatures, you could name, if you're playing, we play commander, so typically, tribal decks are pretty big in our format. So sometimes, you're not choosing salamander, maybe you're choosing Eldrazi, maybe you're choosing zombie,
And
this
keep in
card.
mind that her power and toughness isn't equal to the number you control, but the
Mm-hmm.
number that are in play.
Yep.
Ooh, I wonder if that's been errated at all. Probably not.
I can check.
So, who knew that a tribal deck would have this card in it? Coat of Arms. Cost
Mm-hmm.
5 colorless, and each creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature on the battlefield that shares at least one creature type with it. So, if you're giving out your opponents, like, they're going to be on par with you with salamanders, but you might have more salamanders than they have, so you can still get through with your attacks or whatnot.
And once again, we're changing creature types constantly. Maybe there's 10 salamanders, but maybe instead there's 20 plants. Not
That's
not a
true.
bad trade. And we can change our creature types pretty easily with being in green blue once again. Like, we're going to have extra mana. Like the
It
lands
also,
that I go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And the lands I picked are just kind of like placeholder lands. You can really like do some really silly things with your land base to take advantage of having extra mana to change creature types whenever you feel like it.
What I was going to say, Coat of Arms is also a bit political in this deck because it
Hmm.
counts for each other creature on the battlefield, not just the ones you control. So your opponent's salamanders that are not going to be attacking you get bigger to attack each other and leave you alone.
That's a good point too.
And we have protection. Us and our permits have protection from salamanders. So yeah, I'll give everyone salamanders. That's fine. You can have a 2020 salamander army, but as long as I have enough blockers, I don't care.
You get a salamander. You get a salamander. Everybody gets a
Everybody gets
salamander.
So I've never seen Brian play this card, but this feels like a Brian card. Do you want to take this one?
Would it be the Craterhoof Behemoth?
Yes.
Because that is definitely a Brian card. So, Craterhoof, 5 and 3 green. It is a creature beast haste. When Craterhoof Behemoth enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. And it is a 5/5. This is definitely a win con if you can get creatures on board. And in a green blue, fairly quick. Again, that ramp really helps you out. You get out all of these creatures, and then you can drop a Craterhoof. You could easily have the Craterhoof turn 6 or turn 5, all depending upon what your opening hand and situation was. And if you're just dropping creatures left, right, and center, and then dropping him, you
Yeah,
get in for a good amount.
I mean, we all know Craterhoof Behemoth is very good. In this deck, it just it's kind of silly, I think, because I believe with Craterhoof, if we cast it and we have something like, excuse me, artificial evolution, can we respond to his ETB and change its text to be a salamander if we wanted?
Yeah, I mean, he comes into play, you put his enter the battlefield on the stack and then change him to a salamander and then let him resolve.
So there's a good chance, if we have something like coat of arms, like this magical Christmas land, of course, and it's really overkill, but sometimes you just need big bodies. You can eat. I'm just saying, there's a lot of like silly like things you can do with a lot of these weird cards, and you can have coat of arms on the battlefield, and Crater Hoof's already going to make stuff bigger. But if Crater Hoof comes in as a salamander with Crater, and you have 7 salamanders, Crater Hoof's the only beast.
I was actually
You
muted
can
on
do
the
the math.
stream there. But yeah, sometimes you just need that trample. But yeah, Crater Hoof, so much fun, especially like late game where
hmm
everyone's like, oh, can this game just be over? You're like, all right, Crater Hoof.
Yes, it can be over. Next card is one of my
Can I
favorite
take this one?
cards. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
no. If it's your favorite,
nope,
take it.
nope.
Okay.
You are new. You take it.
All right. So I'm gonna change the text of it a little bit, but I'll do the real version. Then I'm gonna change the text. So it's Finale of Devastation. It's X green green for a sorcery. Search your library and or graveyard for a Crater Hoof Behemoth. I mean a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. If X is 10 or more, salamanders, I mean creatures you control, get plus X and gain haste until end of turn. So we're pretty much going to take all of your salamanders and then have all of our plant tokens and then go get a Crater Hoof Behemoth and kill the table.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
This card is so much fun.
It's sweet. I love it.
I don't even
It's
mind
so
losing to this card.
I think
That's
I've
what
only
people
played
play
it once. I have it in a couple decks, but I think I've only played it once.
Every time I've played this card, I've never felt bad. Even if I've lost for some reason, I've never felt bad. As long as it's resolved. Like, it's just such a cool card.
I don't ever feel bad when I attack people for the win. Now, if I combo off, sometimes I feel a little sleazy, but if I'm attacking you for damage, it's fair and balanced magic.
And I'll be there with open arms
to take all the damage and die.
So one of the themes of this deck, like I said, is doing what green blue does in like a simic guild kind of way, and we're messing with creature types quite a bit. So this next card falls in line with that very well. It's Master Biomancer. It's 2 green blue for an elf wizard 2/4. Each other creature you control enters the battlefield with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to Master Biomancer's power, and is immune in addition to its other types. So this is really good for us.
Absolutely love this card.
It's great, right? So it's going to make our team bigger, even if only slightly at first, but also it unifies all of our creatures in the same creature type. So it does kind of what, Arcane Adaptation and Xenograph does by giving a specific creature type, only we're not choosing it. But this is totally fine. I put in the win cons because it does that. It gives us our unification as far as all the creature types and gives them +1/+1 counters. Like, that's huge. If Master Biomancer becomes big, which is very possible, it's going to make everything else big.
You
Suddenly
slap
those
10
zero
+1/+1 counters on there. They're all coming in with 12. Ugh, so good.
Yeah, suddenly our 0/1 plants are coming in at maybe 11 12s. It's not unreasonable. Even our salamanders are going to come in bigger. So yeah, I just love Master Biomancer, and it was on theme with what I wanted to do with this deck, which was mess with creature types. Do you guys want to take the next 2 cards?
Oh yeah,
Go
sorry. I got the builders here, and they're hammering away, so I'm just like muting myself. But so here we have. Whoops, let me get this up on the screen. This card ends games. Overwhelming Stampede. 3/2 green sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Master Biomancer's out. All your stuff coming into play with +2/+2 on it, or more, considering, and then you just drop this down for whatever's the highest power. Again, if you have enough mana and have Crater Hoof come in at the same time, so much fun.
Yeah, it's silly.
I absolutely love it.
Just silly.
I'll take this next one. I've actually never seen this card until you sent this primer to us.
Man,
really?
Druid. Yeah, I've never seen this thing before.
Wow.
You remember I was on a magical hiatus from Theros to Theros.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of some of these cards, like I just never seen the card before.
This card came out when I first got back into playing,
This card is
And yeah,
awesome.
this card's amazing.
So Tender Shoot Dryad, it's a 4 colorless and a green for a creature Dryad. He's a 2/2. He has Ascend. So if you have 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 green Saproling creature token.
Oh, did you mean
And then
Salamander?
Saproling. Oh, yes, I did. And
Um,
then,
So it's at the beginning of each upkeep, not our
oh,
upkeep.
that's even better. And then
Hmm.
Saprolings or Salamanders, you control gain +2/+2 as long as you have the City's Blessing. And I have a feeling with the token generation, with the Salamander generation, the land generation, you're going to have City's Blessing probably by the time you play this card, or if not shortly after.
Yeah,
This
it's
card seems bonkers in this deck.
Yeah,
so
being able to
our
put
win.
a sapperling in every turn, even if you're like, I'm at 6, by the time it gets around to you, you have the City's Blessing, and you have an additional 3 or 4 sapperlings ready to swing in that are 3/3s or bigger.
Or just block.
Yep.
So this kind of does what a typical blue green deck probably wants to do, which is making a big board or a wide board or both at the same time. But I really try to do it in kind of a like unique way. So that's where those win cons come into play. Um, But to continue to really hammer in how silly this deck can be, we have another section, which is a section I really enjoy. It's the copies section. So the first card is probably one a lot of you haven't seen. I think I wrote about it in a Buried Goods article, and I kept trying to find a place where it made sense. And I felt like this deck is a place where it makes sense. It's Dual Nature. It's a 4 green enchantment. It says whenever a creature comes into play, its controller puts a creature token into play that's a copy of that creature. Whenever a creature card leaves play, remove all tokens with the same name as a creature from the game. When Dual Nature leaves play, remove all creature tokens created from with it from the game. So that's a lot to
Holy
digest, right?
hell.
So
I'm just
let's
looking at the
just
art. Like, what
yeah, the art's
creatures are those?
I
They're
think that's Multan. Is that Multani?
It looks like it.
like, to
All
me,
right,
it
so
just looks like 2 giant birds eating people.
I just
so
love the
let's
fact that every salamander that someone gets, they get 2 salamanders.
right.
And
So
then
let's
you
kind of
get
like
all salamanders.
let's kind of break this down, right? So whenever a creature card comes into play, so it is symmetrical. So sometimes it's going to be good, sometimes it's going to be bad. We're going to really hope that we are going to benefit more from this than anyone else. But anytime a creature card comes into play, we get to create a token of that card. So whenever we play like our, Avenger or our Caller, anything, this is going to give
Crater
a
of Behemoth.
exactly. So there's a high risk, high reward, but the ceiling is also so incredibly high on what we can do with this. But the big thing is too, whenever a creature card leaves play, remove all tokens with the same name. Salamanders are only salamanders. Oh, well, I guess salamander warrior, right? Whatever. So if the board is suddenly like, we have just miscalculated, right? And suddenly someone else has a ton of salamanders and they just need to be gone. We can literally, you know, uh, kill one of our salamanders and all salamanders go bye bye. So if we need an eject button, this card is a weird like wrath type effect. If we need to like remove it, remove from the game. And two, if like
That's weird. So even if someone just goes, I attack or I block with a salamander, all salamanders could just disappear.
mhm.
Yes.
And same is true if dual nature was to leave the battlefield. Anything that was created with it are removed from the game. So very unique
Interesting.
card, super cheap. Like I said, it's a very high risk, high reward card, but I feel like the rewards greatly outweigh the risks.
The
See here,
incredible
it's like
thing too is
67
being from
cents.
Prophecy, like a set that's like 20 years old. I'm probably way off on that math. It's less than $1.
Yeah.
Hmm. I really thought when this commander was spoiled, granted, I know he's not super powerful in the larger terms of like, you know, it's no prosh, but I figured cards like Dual Nature would actually kind of go up because of the things you can do with it, right? I mean, even decks I just care about ETBs that are in green, I think would want this card. Um,
Zach, you might be single-handedly responsible for raising the card price.
Yeah, I've never
Well,
seen this card before in my life.
like I said, I'm pretty sure I wrote about it in my enchantment version of Buried Goods, which is an article that I was doing on our website at Into the 99. Go take a look. There are a couple other really weird cards, but I saw this so long ago and I wanted to do something with it. And I just always had it in the back of my mind. It's always been in my binder, and now I have a home for it. Um,
Salamanders.
does someone want to take this next card that's super good and we obviously all know about it?
Yeah, Ryan, kill it.
All right, Helm of the Host, 4 colorless legendary artifact equipment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary, and if equipped creature is legendary, that token gains haste, and the equip cost is 5. I see a billion different things that you could do with this in this deck.
And
Like,
that's what I like about cards like this in this deck specifically.
put it on the commander. Now everybody gets 2 salamanders.
Mhm.
Put it on Craterhoof Behemoth, and you just kill everybody more.
Yeah,
Put it on Avenger of Zendikar.
I can see Dan playing this deck, and he would probably go the route of trying to create as many tokens as he can. Like he'd be like,
Yep.
I could kill all of you, but I want to create 500 salamanders.
Right. And to do that, we have Rite of Replication, 2 blue for a sorcery with kicker 5. You can pay an additional 5 when you cast the spell. Put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of target creature. If Rite of Replication was kicked, put 5 of those tokens on the battlefield instead.
Card is so
Everyone,
much fun.
yeah, everyone knows how good this card is. I don't need to tell you.
It ends
It's
games.
super good. In
I
this
have
deck,
not seen this card before.
oh my god, Brian.
I think you're full of it.
No, I haven't. Or someone's
Really?
or someone's played it and I just didn't realize it, or they didn't play the kicker to make me go, "What just happened?" Like,
And once again, in this deck, you can literally do a billion different things with it.
Zach, I think you have to do the next one because I think you have a man crush on this card.
I do. I am taking this one anyways. It's Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. It's 3 and a blue for a legendary creature, human rogue, 3/1. You may have Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. ETB is a copy of another creature you control, except it retains its names and other abilities. The legend rule does not apply to permanents you control, and it has partner. Partner doesn't matter in this deck. What matters is literally everything else.
This card
Pick
is so
anything.
cool.
You can do whatever you want with this card. Literally whatever.
You mean you could have 2 amphibiologists in your deck?
You could have a lot more.
This
lot
card's
more.
awesome.
so
I can't wait. Like,
I just realized so that if you're playing this guy, you could be playing Dark Depths, and then you could just be creating as many Merit Legions as you want.
Yes.
yes.
Yep.
I
Legendary rule
didn't see
doesn't
that.
apply.
I didn't see that text before.
You can do the same thing with the Great Hinge.
Interesting.
You
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw Sakashima, I think I just glazed over it. Like,
Yeah.
didn't even really. I was like, it's just another clone effect. And then I really got to looking at it, and I was like, wait a minute, this thing has partner.
Yeah, I played
I
Matt
was like,
last night.
I have so many different ideas for this. And then I saw this deck, and I was like, wait, what? There's so many different ideas. Like, the possibilities are endless with
Like
this
Matt
card.
was playing Slurk and Sakashima Ooze Tribal.
That's awesome.
He made a copy with Sakashima of the bio waste ooze. So he just second turn around, he's like, I have 4 of my ooze lords, so all my oozes are getting +4/+4.
This card's insane.
Yep. So that's the new Sakashima. Does someone want to take the old Sakashima?
I'll take it. Sakashima the Imposter. 2 colorless, blue, legendary creature, human rogue, 3/1. From one of my favorite blocks, Kamigawa block. I wish they would go back to Kamigawa block. As
Hopefully soon.
Sakashima the Imposter comes into play, you may choose a creature in play. If you do, Sakashima comes into play as a copy of that creature, except its name is still Sakashima the Imposter. It's still legendary, and it gains 2 colorless, blue, return Sakashima the Imposter to its owner's hand at the end of turn.
The only reason I would want to go back to Kamigawa is for more ninjas.
Everything in Kamigawa I loved. Ninjas, rats, weapons, arcane, spirits. I loved it all. The set was amazing.
So
But this card,
yeah, Sakashima the Imposter is great. You can see the callbacks from the 1,000 Faces to this one. Being able to reset Sakashima is awesome. and the art's done by RK Post, who is one of my favorite artists in
He's
Magic.
So it
pretty
had to be
amazing.
included.
Yeah, there's no reason not to. Brian, take this one.
So we have Sakashima's Will, 3 and a blue. Choose one. If you control a commander as you choose, if you, the beeping behind me is getting me annoyed. If you
I
control a
thought that was just
commander
Dave.
as you cast the spell, you may choose both. Target opponent chooses a creature they control. You gain control of it. Choose a creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of that creature. Wow, until end of turn. That I think I might have one of those, and I think I might have to put it into a deck.
I did not crack any of these, and I was very sad.
Yeah, I love Sakashima.
I didn't get the nice one. Like I didn't get this full art or anything like that. But I believe I got just a normal one of it.
Yeah, this card's nuts. I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking it, and probably shouldn't be. We play
This
Commander.
card's so good.
Like
I
you're
played in the
gonna,
Commander pre-release yesterday, and
yeah.
this card absolutely blew me out one game.
Yeah, it's very easy to do. So the last card in our copies, it goes in almost all my blue decks too. It's Spark Double. It's 3 and a blue for an illusion. It's a 0/0. As Spark Double ETBs, oh, sorry, ETBs as a copy of a creature or planeswalker we control, except it comes in with additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's creature, or an additional loyalty counter if it's a planeswalker. And if it is legendary, the creature copy coming in isn't legendary. So once again, kind of do whatever you want with it.
So
A
you
lot of
realize, people, that if Zach's not playing Reanimate, he's playing copies.
yes, there are 3 things I love doing in Magic: reanimation, stealing your stuff, or copying your stuff.
You're a terrible person.
These are the things. These are the things. Yeah, I like it. It's cool. Did you want to say something, Ryan?
No, we're good.
I have one question for you, Zach. So we've gone through how you make stuff into salamanders, your win conditions in this deck, and your copies. So how to make more of something that can either win you the game or help protect yourself. Do you have any combos in this deck that you're aware of? Because I know that with your last one, you didn't realize that you did build in an infinite combo, and I think someone might have told you about it. I don't know, or you just
Yes.
noticed.
Shout outs to the Han shot for being my fact checker. Thank you, as always, for making me look much better than I am. So there's in our untap section over here, because we want to be able to untap things whenever we want, we have a Staff of Domination. So I'm going to say that there aren't any infinite combos, but there's a Staff of Domination, so there might be. I don't really know.
There's
That's
pieces
probably,
that could work.
yeah, it's probably very what's the word I'm looking for? Very irresponsible of me to not know, but when I built this deck, I didn't have any combos like that in mind, any infinite combos. I just wanted to value as much as possible. So we, untap section is just good untapped, stuff. Fate Stitcher, Retreat to Coral Helm, Seaborn Muse, Staff of Domination. Since Staff of Dominations are running rampant, and I think I have 4 now, and I used to have none. I wanted to put in this deck so I could. It's also a good mana sink,
Yeah, no,
So
makes sense.
yeah, as far as I'm aware, there aren't any. But if you guys find them, point them out to me and let me know. We'll tweet about it or something. We'll let you guys know that I'm a bad deck builder in the regards that I make infinite combos without realizing it.
No, I think that's awesome. If you could put an infinite combo in your deck, you don't even know it's there.
I
You've achieved a whole
I
different
did the
level.
exact same thing, like what I just did with my Gen deck, or Gen, however someone wants to pronounce it. But I just I took my enchantments from my Mogus deck and my white enchantments from my Savala deck, and I just put them together. There might be a combo there. I have no idea. Actually, do you know what? I have the black enchantment that costs a single black, and as long as 2 damage is dealt every turn, it puts a counter, and then you start milling. So that's in there. So I assume that
Okay.
there is an infinite combo in that. Blood Chief Ascension.
Yep.
So there might be an infinite combo around it, but I don't know. I haven't got to that point yet.
So since we're talking about Ascensions, I just want to kind of quickly go over the last portions of this deck because we're almost done with it. In the enchantment section, this could also be a win con. I just put in enchantments for now. It's Beastmaster's Ascension. It's 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, you may put a quest counter on Beastmaster's Ascension. As long as Beastmaster's Ascension has 7 or more quest counters, creatures you control get +5/+5.
It's kind of
Seems pretty
crazy in this deck.
I
seems
do
pretty
like
good.
that.
Very doable.
Um, so Dissipation Field is another thing. So this is kind of like a to incentivize people to not attack you. It's 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever a permanent deals damage to you, return it to its owner's hand.
I love cards like this. Like, it sucks having stuff bounced. I get it, but sometimes you can't get yourself set up in time. But if you draw this, then you know. Do you know what?
s-
If they put something out, they have to wait one more turn, and then if they do want to hit me, they're going to be bouncing it back to their hand, and again, it's another 2 turns until they hit me again.
This card
So
fits everything that blue and green wants to be in tempo.
right, and it's also another political card, right? Let's say you have a guy, or you're playing against someone, and they really like need a card draw, and they have a creature that ETBs and draws them a card,
Solemn.
or they have a solemn and they really need to hit another land. They've been stuck on 4 lands for like 6 turns. Hey, I'll let you come through and you can recast your solemn to get another land, but you owe me a favor later down in the game.
Yeah, same with things like Muldrifter and
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
there's
or a reclamation
no reason-
sage. If there's a problem on the field, they can hit you, they can bounce it. If they blow up your dissipation field, they're just bad peoples.
yeah, I mean,
and
you're
there's
not
no
wrong.
reason you can't have this card out with the ramp package that's in this deck. There's no reason you can't have this card out on turn 3.
Yeah, it's very reasonable. Does someone want to take the next card?
Yeah, I'll take it. Garrick's Uprising. It's 2 colorless green for an enchantment. When Garrick's Uprising enters the battlefield, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw a card. Creatures you control have trample. By that I mean salamanders you control have trample. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card, which is a Nombo with Gor Muldrak. And if you get a salamander, you're drawing a card as well.
Mhm.
So what do salamanders come in as? Just 1/1s or 2/2s?
4
threes.
What? So yeah. So well, even if you have the Master Biomancer out, they're coming in as 6/5s?
Mm-hmm.
Redonkulous.
This deck seems so silly. Like I have so many decks on my plate right now that I want to build, but I really want to build this after going through this.
See what happens? Like I've listened to Zach's like his aura deck. I was like, I need to build this deck. It just seems like a lot of fun.
Wait a minute, you wanted to build a deck with enchantments in it?
Actually, it's not enchantments.
Auras are enchantments.
No,
No,
aura.
the
The cleric.
Oh, I'm thinking AURA.
Oh yeah.
And I was
no.
like, you wanted to build something with enchantment?
So you guys know what's better than salamanders that swim?
Salamanders that fly.
Levitation, 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Creatures you control have flying.
I like it.
Flying and trample salamanders.
The only thing that would be
fear
better is
me.
if you played, I think, Sun Quan and all your salamanders had horsemanship.
I really thought about it. Really did.
Can you imagine that? Seeing a whole horde of salamanders riding on the backs of horses.
It was just I wanted to try to keep the CMC as low as possible, while still doing silly things. This isn't a super competitive deck, but since I'm trying this newer lower land base because Dan accosts me constantly about it, I felt like the horsemanship was, while it's cool and could definitely go in this deck, right now I'm not doing it.
No, it doesn't belong in the deck.
When you said salamanders with horsemanship, all that popped into my head was like the part from Jurassic Park. They do ride in herds.
So to keep some redundancy, I'm also playing Primal Rage, which is 1 and a green. It's an enchantment. Creatures you control have trample.
I mean,
Just redundancy.
makes sense.
Four
and
is
since we're
big
playing-
enough. 4 is big enough to get in with trample. Like
Yeah.
I would love all my 4/3s to have trample. That'd be amazing. Because you're at least getting in for maybe 1 or 2. Because most in the early game, all depending, is most creatures are 1/1s, 2/2s, or 3/3s. So at least I'm gonna get in for at least 1 damage on that person. My salamander might die, but so's whatever they're blocking with. But then who
Exactly.
cares? I don't need blockers because I have protection from salamanders.
Um,
Love it.
the final piece of enchantment I want Brian to read because this is also a very Brian card. Yeah, it's
Isn't
pretty
there
wild.
I just realized I was on mute the entire time. Curse you, house people.
there's also
But yeah,
collective restraint, I think it's called. It's basically does the same thing, but it does it for your lands that like it ended up being 2 in this, but it's um they pay 1 for each basic type that you control.
interesting.
Yeah, it's an older blue enchantment, right?
It's like invasion block, I believe.
But I'm just going to
So
read this one more time because I was muted during that entire time. So
No,
it's
you were.
propaganda. No, on Discord, but on
Okay,
the
sorry.
recording software I was. But yeah, propaganda's 2 and a blue. Enchantment creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. So it just works really, like I was mentioning when I was muted, it just works really well with Ghostly Prison. And it's just a blue version of Ghostly Prison. But
um s-
great to
so
have in your deck.
So for this deck, we're running 12 ramp spells. I've kept them pretty low CMC, and I have a couple elves in here to just pad our numbers out. So we have early blockers if we need them, and also for our overwhelming like stampede type effects, these are just more bodies to add. So ramp spells just 12. I don't think there's really anything of note that I want to talk about. For our draw spells, though, there are 3 that I want to talk about. Um, the first is Edric Spymaster of Trust. Do either of you want to read this?
Sure.
Go for it.
He is 1 colorless, green blue for a legendary creature, elf rogue, and he's a 2/2. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may draw a card.
Total political card.
It
Mhm.
it does tons of work for you. It does all of your opponents. It keeps them from attacking you and attacking each other and drawing cards. This card is, if you're playing blue green or anything with blue green in it, and you have creatures, this should be in your deck.
So it's an elf rogue, but I honestly want to get it altered to look like a salamander because I feel like this is like a secret salamander creature, right? Like with how this deck functions and kind of the background for um Chandelar and the amphibians on that plane, this seems like it would be a salamander. Like
It
just
could also be awesome to do like an altar of like, because you have our commander who kind of looks like an Indiana Jonesy type guy. You could have them alter this into Steve Irwin, so he could be the salamander wrangler.
right. It's so silly. I love it.
I love the
So
different ideas you get for altars on things.
we so up.
I said I love how you can get like the different ideas for altars on certain cards, like this guy turning him to Steve Irwin. Like love just that thought.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Brian, do you want to take the next card? It's the one I want to talk about is right below Edric.
Sounds good. So we have Elemental Bond, which is 2 and a green enchantment. Whenever a creature of power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Fantastic.
So
Brian,
I'm not typically a fan of Reliquary Tower in decks, but I feel like that Reliquary Tower might be a important card in this deck. I think you're going to
why
draw a lot of cards.
now? Why would you say that?
That you're going to draw a lot of cards, or that I'm not a fan of the card.
No, why would we be drawing a lot of cards in this deck?
It just seems like everything in this deck draws cards.
What I was getting at is salamanders are 4/3. So once again, another thing that's going to trigger elemental bond. As long as we're making a salamander, and this is out, we get to draw a card. So a free salamander, so free 4/3 body and a card. That's the value is just super super good.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
really good. Actually, I've never seen that card again. Like I enjoy going through because like I always like to be surprised when I look at these deck lists because there's always cards like that I've never noticed, and I love to share my surprised reaction with everybody.
so the last card I want to talk about in card draw is Return of the Wild Speaker. It's 4 and a green for an instant. You choose one. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control, or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. Just good. We either draw a lot of cards, or we pump the team even further for maybe a
Card's
giant
crazy.
alpha strike.
Yeah,
hmm
that's really good actually.
So the last bit of the stuff I want to talk about is in our removal section. A lot of the stuff you can kind of just. I'm running 8 different removal spells. The only ones I feel like are absolutely necessary in this deck would probably be. I don't know, maybe two, but a third one I really want to talk about anyways. So the first one I want to talk about, one of you guys can get. It's the very top card.
I'll take it. Aetherize. It's 3 colors and a blue. Return all attacking creatures to their owner's hands.
Like I said,
That's really
we're being
nice.
we're being political, right? So if someone kills our commander, we can, they try to attack us with all the salamanders we gifted them so rudely, we can aetherize them. Or if, Brian's been getting hit all game and he just wants to play Magic and you kind of start to feel bad for the guy, if he gets attacked again, you can just return that guy, whoever's attacking him, all their creatures in their hand. It's great.
So you'll return your own creatures?
I mean, I probably won't attack you. Unless you play a
I mean, there's
suppression
also too,
field.
it's like if you want to, you kind of at that linchpin where you think you might be able to win, but you need a favor. You can be like, "Hey, I'll bounce all a dude's stuff back to his hand if on the next time you don't attack me, or let me get my big spell through." Or
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's some trickery with this card. I include in a lot of my blue decks. It's just fun. Brian, you want to take the next card? It's right underneath
Yeah.
Aetherize.
So we have a new card here. Mutineer creature, salamander pirate. Hey, it's an actual salamander. When Amphin Mutineer enters the battlefield, exile up to one target non-salamander creature. That creature's controller creates a 4/3 blue salamander warrior creature token. Has Encore 4 and 2 blue. Exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent. This turn, if able, they gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the end step. Activate only as a sorcery. That's actually pretty neat.
it's a great card.
Being able to exile stuff in blue green is very powerful. Giving a 4/3 body that's a salamander is also not necessarily a bad thing for us. We could pad the numbers out to be able to get a salamander out of it, or we can honestly just take their salamanders when we feel like it with the different cards that we have
Why
in the
not,
deck.
right?
The only thing that I'm kind of sad about this card is that it's not a 4/3.
Right. Like
It's only a
that
3/3.
that didn't really make a lot of sense, but I think maybe the fact that it exiled was probably why it was a little too good to make it a 4/3, but it definitely should have been a 4/3. I
Yeah,
totally agree.
all the salamanders seem to be 4/3, so it just seemed fitting to the.
So the last card I want to talk about for the deck, and what I feel like if you're going to build this deck, should go in literally every single version of this deck, is Echoing Truth. It's 1 and a blue for an instant.
Good.
Right? Return target non-land permanent and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent to its owner's hands.
The
You would generally
salamander.
not think this card would be that great in Commander, but in this deck, it seems bonkers.
Once again, if you're playing the tribal deck, if you're racing an elf ball deck, bounce all the elves. All the elf tokens have been made. Or if someone's playing Krinko and they are just deciding to go white instead of like impact trimmers or something, bounce all the goblin tokens.
Well, even if they're trying to board wipe you, you could bounce all the salamanders. So you could make all of the other cards that you don't want to go to grave salamanders and then bounce them back to your hand, so you can just put them right back out again. You can save your stuff before they die.
Yep. Well, it's same name, not creature type.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, Salamander Warrior just. Yeah, Salamander Warrior just happens to be the name of the creature tokens that are made. That's what I was saying, like goblins and elves. But yeah, that's the deck. Like Brian said, going off of American dollars, without basic lands, this deck is around $413. And you really, can easily.
Sorry,
go ahead.
If you cut Craterhoof Behemoth, Avenger of Zendikar, Rhystic Study, and Sylvan Library, this deck becomes infinitely cheaper.
Right. And I'm playing these cards, like I said, normally I like to build pretty budget friendly. I'm playing the Rhystic Study and Sylvan Library because I have extra copies. Since Commander Legends has came out, I've taken apart a couple decks. So these are cards that I had and kind of forgot about that are just floating around. So otherwise, like Ryan said, you can easily get this deck to be cheaper.
And if you're a savage like Dan, or to some degree myself, you could put in, Force Will, Mana Drain, Pact of Negation.
Yes.
To further protect your stuff. Yep.
You could up your land and put in like a tropical island. If you want to turn this into a $2,000 or $3,000 deck, it'd be super, super simple to do.
So I want to talk, do something kind of new that we haven't done before. I want to talk about strengths and weaknesses of this deck. So I would think, I believe, and you guys can, chime in when you feel like it. Some of the strengths for this deck, it's kind of silly in a good way, right? Like I feel like it makes every game unique. Where maybe you are calling salamanders as the creature type for one of your spells, but maybe instead it's zombie, and you're trying to take someone's zombie stuff or something like that to eventually turn to salamanders. So like some strengths, I feel like the deck always plays differently. Um, some other strengths, like we're using a lot of like really weird cards, and I don't know about you guys, but whenever someone plays a card I've never seen before, I have to stop and ask them to take a picture of it,
Yep.
right? Like so I have it and I can get it later.
I do
I
find that this deck has a ton of obscure cards in it.
The deck is a conversation starter.
mm-hmm.
That there's cards in here that even like when I played standard, when these were in standard legal sets, they were obscure cards that didn't see play. So it's like you see some of these, especially for a newer player that's maybe getting into Magic with Commander Legends or got into it with Double Masters. You've never heard of these cards.
One of my strengths is that it runs cards from my favorite set.
Yeah, that's definitely a strength. I would say like maybe like a not a lore, but like a Vorthos, like strength, right? If you very much like the thematics, I would say of simic or stuff like that, like you can really abuse a lot of like, we're dealing with cards from the onslaught block. They're old cards, they're cheap, they're neat, and they're really interesting. That's
Well,
a good
I
one.
find two cards that are like that are hard to play around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this deck is going to catch. I mean, depends on your like if you play with the same, like 4 or 5 people, is that your tight knit play group and you play a lot of Magic. I think people might get hip to what this deck's trying to do. But if you don't play this deck too often and you play with a much bigger play group, I think this deck's going to be kind of hard to figure out what to do against it other than prevent you from attacking me.
I think
Okay.
its weakness, though, would be board wipes. We didn't go over anything to recur or stuff like that, but I'm sure you worked it in somehow. But just looking at it right now, it looks as if it would be weak to a board wipe. Um, but being in the blue green, you'd be able to again start to get them going because you'd have the mana.
Right. So for this deck, I actually didn't put in really any recursion at all because I really wanted to focus and double down on the thematics of, you know, making creatures and changing their typing. There are, like your negates and stuff like that to try to,
Prevent it.
yeah, but there really aren't that many. So that's definitely a weakness. It like board wipes do kill if someone plays an enchantment. We do have some things to deal with enchantments, but if someone plays something that's like creatures of the chosen type get neg, whatever, that could be a problem.
I also think this deck really leans heavily into having your commander in play. I think there's definitely other ways around that, but I think you really want to keep the
Protect
commander
your
in play.
commander.
Yeah, protect your commander and keep him in play as long as possible.
And I'm not really running any kind of boots or any kind of protection there. Once again, we have the counter spells and stuff like that. And with our commander being such low CMC, we can recast it fairly easy, but you want to be using that mana for different things. So
For sure.
yeah. So strengths, unique gameplay probably every time. Um, Fairly budget friendly. You get to play with a lot of obscure cards, and it's a unique game plan. Some weaknesses being it's heavily reliant upon your commander. So if you're not prepared to recast your commander multiple times, that could be a problem. If you play with the same group of people and you play this deck pretty frequently, it's going to be telegraphed. So you kind of got to be aware of that. Um, Needs recursion because it does lose to board wipes, so you need to be prepared for that as well. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty good.
It
Do you
does look
guys?
like a blast to play.
Yeah, this looks
I'm
like it'd be super fun. And I guess one last strength would be I love the theme. It is themed heavy, and you're all in on that theme. And I love a really good theme. Like I love tribal, and being an obscure theme or obscure tribe, it's fantastic.
I try to do what I always do, Brian. Like I make a silly deck, but I don't just put it out there as like, oh, this is a deck full of card people on chairs. Like, this is a salamander based deck for sure. I want to play salamanders, but I always try to bring you guys the best version of the deck I can possibly brew.
No,
And
this is
that's what this
fantastic.
is.
I love this. Again, I cannot wait to actually play against it because it's going to just be interesting. Like, I don't know what I would play because I would just like to see the deck go off.
And like I told you, I've gotten a lot of cards already for this deck. I'm just missing a few things. I'm probably going to get a couple things proxied. I've been super super into One Piece lately, and there are a lot of One Piece proxies I want for this deck. So I'll have to get those before I can actually put this together.
Hey, once you get it together, let me know. We'll throw down.
Yeah.
Oh yes, this will definitely be on stream. So
The duel.
So I think that does it. I think it wraps up another episode of the Into the 99 podcast. Brian, you want to take us home?
Sure. So, like we mentioned at the beginning, we do have our website, intothe99.com. You can find all of our podcast episodes. You can find articles written by us and by members of the community. As well as it has on our main page, you have links to our Instagram, our YouTube channel. If you enjoy the content, make sure that you like it, subscribe, hit that notification bell.
Bing, 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 bing.
If Dan was here, we'd be having our outro and everything going. But
he's saving moose.
Yeah, right. He's out there rescuing the mooses.
If you guys are listening to us on iTunes too, please leave us a review. It really helps other people find the podcast.
See, I am not
Yes,
an Apple person.
please.
Yes, I did not know you could do that. But
Yes, I'm
You
an Apple
can.
junkie, and if they leave reviews, the more reviews they leave, the easier it is for people to find us.
yeah,
That helps us tremendously. Please
Tons,
and thank you.
please.
and we would give you one of these. But so if the platform has the ability, leave us a review, rate us, all that great stuff. If you enjoy the content that we're bringing you guys and you want to help support, patreon.com/into the99 will be the best place. And we would love you for it. You get your own private chat in our Discord with us. And we look forward to talking with you. If you build this deck, make sure to reach out, let Zach know.
Please do. I want to know how you would do this or what you would do different.
What would you add or remove?
I love seeing your guys' brews. I don't care what it is. Even if it's not anything that I've done, please send me it. I'm Necrozach on literally everything. I would love to talk to you about Magic.
Ryan, you being a new person on the team, where can we find you?
R Dilgart on Instagram is pretty much the only platform I'm on. I post a lot of stuff about Magic and miniatures. So check me out.
As you can see behind you,
yes,
great.
Display cabinets of miniatures.
So many armies.
Yes. Actually, no, that's like 1.5.
Oh,
See,
wow.
I
don't know much about it, but we'll have to definitely have a discussion.
Those two cabinets, the first two, those are all one army.
Oh, geez. That's so cool. I do want to congratulate and once again give a shout out to both Ryan and Benson. They have recently humbled us by accepting our queries about them joining the team, and we're super super excited to be working with you guys. Thank you so much. We are
honored.
We are just looking forward to working with you guys. Both are pillars of our community, and I can't say enough. Like, I'm super excited. You guys are my friends, and it's fun, and it's just good to have you guys around. Thank you.
Like I said, I was speechless when Brian asked me yesterday. I didn't even know what to say other than yes, but I was just
like, look, on your first day on the job, you're already on a podcast. Look at that.
I know.
But again, thank you all for listening. Until next time, have a good one.
Later, guys and girls.